The People's Mujahedin of Iran presented evidence in 2002 showing the Iranian government was building nuclear facilities in Natanz. In 2003, after the Iranian government formally acknowledged the facilities, the Atomic Energy Agency inspected them, finding that they had a more advanced nuclear program than had previously been anticipated by U.S. intelligence. That same year, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, first reported that Iran had not declared sensitive enrichment and reprocessing activities. Enrichment can be used to produce uranium for reactor fuel or, at higher enrichment levels, for weapons. Iran says its nuclear program is peaceful, and has enriched uranium to less than 5%, consistent with fuel for a civilian nuclear power plant. Iran also claims that it was forced to resort to secrecy after U.S. pressure caused several of its nuclear contracts with foreign governments to fall through. After the IAEA Board of Governors reported Iran's non-compliance with its safeguards agreement to the UN Security Council, the Council demanded that Iran suspend its nuclear enrichment activities while Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has argued that the sanctions are illegal, imposed by arrogant powers, and that Iran has decided to pursue the monitoring of its self-described peaceful nuclear program through its appropriate legal path. The International Atomic Energy Agency.After public allegations about Iran's previously undeclared nuclear activities, the IAEA launched an investigation that concluded in November 2003 that Iran had systematically failed to meet its obligations under its NPT Safeguards Agreement to report those activities to the IAEA, although it also reported no evidence of links to a nuclear weapons program. The IAEA Board of Governors delayed a formal finding of non-compliance until September 2005, and reported that non-compliance to the UN Security Council in February 2006. After the IAEA Board of Governors reported Iran's non-compliance with its safeguards agreement to the United Nations Security Council, the Council demanded that Iran suspend its enrichment programs. The Council imposed sanctions after Iran refused to do so. A May 2009 US Congressional Report suggested the United States, and later the Europeans, argued that Iran's deception meant it should forfeit its right to enrich, a position likely to be up for negotiation in talks with Iran. In exchange for suspending its enrichment program, Iran was offered a long-term comprehensive arrangement which would allow for the development of relations and cooperation with Iran based on mutual respect and the establishment of international confidence in the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. However, Iran has consistently refused to give up its enrichment program, arguing that the program is necessary for its energy security, that such long-term arrangements are inherently unreliable, and would deprive it of its inalienable right to peaceful nuclear technology. In June 2009, in the immediate wake of the disputed Iranian presidential election, Iran initially agreed to a deal to relinquish its stockpile of low-enriched uranium in return for fuel for a medical research reactor, but then backed out of the deal. Currently, 13 states possess operational enrichment or reprocessing facility. In every other case in which the IAEA Board of Governors made a finding of safeguards non-compliance involving clandestine enrichment or reprocessing, the resolution has involved, in the cases of Iraq and Libya, or is expected to involve, in the case of North Korea, at a minimum ending sensitive fuel cycle activities. According to Pierre Goldschmidt, former Deputy Director General and Head of the Department of Safeguards at the IAEA, and Henry D. Sokolsky, Executive Director of the Non-Proliferation Policy Education Center, some other instances of safeguards non-compliance reported by the IAEA Secretariat, South Korea, Egypt, were never reported to the Security Council because the IAEA Board of Governors never made a formal finding of non-compliance. Though South Korea's case involved enriching uranium to levels near weapons grade, the country itself voluntarily reported the isolated activity, and Goldschmidt has argued political considerations also played a dominant role in the board's decision to not make a formal finding of non-compliance. Estimating when Iran might possibly achieve nuclear breakout capability, defined as having produced a sufficient quantity of highly enriched uranium to fuel a weapon, if a working design for one existed and the political decision to assemble it was made, is uncertain. A detailed analysis by physicists at the Federation of American Scientists concludes that such an estimate would depend on the total number and overall efficiency of the centrifuges Iran has in operation, and the amount of low-enriched uranium it has stockpiled to serve as feedstock for a possible high-enrichment program. A March 23, 2012 US Congressional Research Service report quotes February 24, 2012 IAEA report saying that Iran has stockpiled 240 pounds of 20% enriched uranium, an enrichment level necessary for medical applications, as an indication of their capacity to enrich to higher levels. The authoritarian political culture of Iran may pose additional challenges to a scientific program requiring cooperation among many technical specialists. Some experts argue that the intense focus on Iran's nuclear program detracts from a need for broader diplomatic engagement with the Islamic Republic. U.S. intelligence agency officials interviewed by the New York Times in March 2012 said they continued to assess that Iran had not restarted its weaponization program, which the 2007 National Intelligence Estimate said Iran had discontinued in 2003, although they have found evidence that some weaponization-related activities have continued. The Israeli Mossad reportedly shared this belief.